Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continued today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's the gold standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Thank you for joining us on the Gold Standard Radio Show. I'm Jennifer Horn, the star of our program, because he's the brains behind the operation. Ken Russo is here.
Yeah, a real shooting star.
Hey, I was just telling you this past weekend, I saw the meteor shower, which was absolutely fantastic. You know what I like to think? Watching all of those beautiful shooting stars out there, I thought, I bet there's gold up there, don't you think? It's so sparkly.
Yeah, there has to be. Natural energy, natural beauty.
It was gorgeous, that's for sure. And we are going to talk about things that are not as beautiful.
Yeah, I've been sidetracked.
As a meteor shower,
yes.
But we will talk about how gold is a beautiful thing and that it can help you save yourself, your wealth, and your financial future. All you have to do to find out more, if you're interested in adding gold to your investment portfolio, you call Midas Gold Group right now. It's easy. Everybody's so nice. 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653. And Ken, this week, our financial system is dying.
Yeah, and we all have a front row seat.
We sure do.
Yes.
And unfortunately for many of us, we've been watching this over time. This didn't happen overnight, but we always like to start the program going back to 1971.
Yeah, I actually think that this week is the 52nd anniversary of the big, let's take the dollar off the gold standard, that sort of thing. And maybe I can do a little impression this week.
I would love it. Okay, so normally we start with President Richard Nixon. This weekend we start with President Richard Nixon as performed by Ken Russo. Scene.
Yes, I am not a crook, and let's make fake money, and let's take the dollar off of the gold standard where the dollar is no longer convertible to any ounces of gold. We don't have any gold left, so let's just send them worthless dollars, and let's create a big bubble, and let's have it burst in the future, and let's pump it up and pop it, pump it up and pop it. That makes me feel real safe about what's going on, and inevitable. It was inevitable.
I gotta say that was pretty dang good.
Oh,
that is pretty good. You gotta.
I get an A for effort.
Yeah, I think we might. If we don't find you one week, we might have to check like a main stage in Las
Tricky
Vegas.
Dick.
And this is the point. You might be listening to us on conservative talk radio. I don't know what kind of station. Maybe who knows? We have lots of radio affiliates around the country.
A lot of racist people out there listen onto the conservative radio.
All you crazy extremists who are listening to the radio
Conspiracy
right now.
theorists, shame on you.
But this is the problem. It's not just Democrats. Like a lot of talk radio, we just like to say, you know what, Democrats, the left. But this problem is a Republican and Democrat. This is an everybody problem in our country when it comes to what people like to do in power, and what they like to do in power is spend money.
Yeah, and money we don't have, and deficits, and that's why we're talking today, because it's been really decades in the making, and it's either going to happen really gradually or it's going to happen all at once. So we have to prepare for it. Like we've mentioned before, Jen, you can't buy fire insurance for your house when it's already on fire. No,
and sadly, you have to be ready, and you have to be ready to not be able to put all of your eggs in the government's basket, essentially. I mean, gosh, you look at one of the tragedies that our country's been facing over the last several weeks with those fires in Maui. They were cut off. Do you think that those people are getting access to all the stuff that they need right now? They didn't even have access to their cell phones in some areas. 911 was out. So
let's get our priorities in order, and we send hundreds of millions to other countries, and we can't take care of our own.
Looking at you, Ukraine. That's right. And we can't even get a comment from the sitting president, at least for a few days. Finally came out later in the week and made some comments about Maui, but it took a long time. So do you want to trust your finances to a system that can't even aid its citizens in need? I mean, this is a real problem that's going on. Let's jump into President Biden's executive order, because I know there's a lot you wanted to talk about here. He's been out shifting around and selling Bidenomics. Is it working?
Bidenomics. What a sack of, you know what. Well, I mean, what I would say is let's keep it simple, and currency changes every about 40 to 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1934 was the first time that the United States chipped away at the gold standard. They made it illegal for people of the United States to own gold, and obviously was a way for them to start this whole money printing debt experiment. It really accelerated in 1971, as we know, when Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, and they paved the way, to see where we are today with this enormous debt. The whole world is drowning in debt. It's a big bubble. Everybody's okay with it, Jen, when our real estate's inflating, and they're okay with it when our 401k's inflating.
Yep.
But what happens when that stops? What happens when you're playing musical chairs and you're the person that doesn't have a chair?
You're in real trouble.
Right, and that's what we're going to try to avoid. Now, if you look at it, through the Biden Executive Order 14067, which was the responsible development of digital assets, we've spoken about that before, where we're going to be replacing our monetary system with a CBDC tied to a social score. That's where we're headed.
And this digital system means more government control. They can see into everything. Digital system means there's nothing that you physically hold on to. It's imaginary stuff that the government's going to dole out, and they're going to keep an eye on, right?
Yeah, and the question is would you want to have all of your money in that type of a monitored system?
No.
No, absolutely no. So what can you do is you can take some of your money out of the bank today, and you could, well, hopefully they'll let you, and you can take some money out of the stock market. And we're not giving financial advice, but to me, the stock market feels like it's at a point where it's going to start turning down again. People have been piling money into Microsoft and Apple and all these AI stocks for whatever reason. Maybe they're just afraid of missing out, but it really feels to me like people are just grasping at straws. But when we get down to basics, any good foundation begins with gold.
Right. Because it's something real and it's held its value over time. And we talk about a couple of different scenarios here. If things go really, really wrong, and we hope that it doesn't, but it feels like we're headed down that path, gold has value so that you can use it to take care of yourself and take care of your family.
Yeah, it may have to use it. And
you never know.
A quick story is that we get people that come into the office all the time. And if you can't make it to the office, call. But say you're self-employed, say you lost your job, say we enter a recession or even a depression.
Yeah.
We've had many people that have said, hey, listen, my gold in 2010, 2011 helped me make it through that crisis. I sold a bar or a coin every month. I paid my employees with that money. I paid my mortgage. I didn't lose my home. So, I mean, if gold is going to work, it's going to go $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 an ounce.
So you gain wealth then when
you would,
if something like this happens, you'd gain wealth with the gold that you currently have.
But that wouldn't be the basis why I would own it.
Correct.
I would own it because I want to take some money out of this dying system. I want to take some money out of my bank account so the government can't monitor it.
Right.
I want to take some money out of my IRA or move some assets from my retirement account into gold and silver because I don't want the government, knowing everything that I do with my accounts. I want privacy. Now, if the price of gold, which historically holds its value, makes me money or increases my purchasing power, fantastic. And it should, because back in the early 70s, gold was $30 and it went to $800 in a few years.
Exactly.
And back in early 2000, it was about $300 an ounce and it went to $1,900, which is where we are today. So the move hasn't occurred yet. And when gold reflects all of this money that's been printed and all of this debt, and it hasn't done it yet, it will be substantially higher than where we are today. So for many reasons, every single American right now, Jen, should be considering diversifying a large portion of their assets into something safe that they could hold on to. And gold and silver is one of the easiest ways to do that.
And you don't want to wait until the next emergency. You don't want to wait until the next bank failure. You want to do it today. Do it while you can, and do it while things are this calm before the storm, essentially. 855-322-GOLD is the number to call from Midas Gold Group. They are America First Patriots, great people over there. And seriously, it's not a call center. You go and you can actually talk through your situation with someone who really knows and can give you great information. 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-GOLD. 4653. You can also always go online to MidasGoldGroup.com. You're listening to the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn. And you said a while ago, just in your last little bit of talk here, Ken, you said the word monitor. You said the M word. And that word is really scary to me because the government is looking at social credit scores. They can look and see what you're doing. Now, none of us may be up to that much the exciting stuff, but what if they don't like our politics? What if they don't like things we say on social media? Are we then going to be targeted by the government with a social credit score? I mean, what does this all mean for people?
Well, I would definitely say just look at the news every day. It's an uneven playing field, right?
Yep.
So who's making the rules and then who's enforcing them? I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of it.
No, I would not.
So the way that you could protect yourself is by diversifying, hedging your bets a little bit, giving yourself an option so all of your eggs are not in that basket.
Yeah.
I mean, what if we're frozen out of our money? What if we're made to invest in government assets because nobody else wants it? What if we're forced to do something? So, like I said, financial freedom is very important. Financial independence is very important. We as a veteran-owned company have fought for freedom, and we fight for financial survival and for financial freedom at this point. It's important, it's very realistic, it's very relevant, and people need to do something about it today.
And you can do it in a number of different ways. You wanted to show people what you brought into the studio today? Tell us about this, one of my favorites.
Here's a great product. It's a 50-gram gold Valcambi combi bar. It's 50 1-gram squares of 24-karat gold, which by definition is 4.9 pure, $99.99. Each square could be broken apart without losing any gold. So are we going to need gold for money? I don't know.
But if you did, this would be an interesting thing to have in your safe.
The fact is that gold has always been convertible to whatever living expense money is at that time. So this is a good way to own gold in either small denominations, or it's an easy way to carry around $3,000 or $4,000 worth of gold in a very easy, convenient way. And
It looks like a credit card.
It does. And like I said, the only way to own gold, in our opinion, is physical gold. We're not talking about paper gold, ETF gold. You don't own any of that stuff.
You want to hold on to the real deal.
It's all still tied to the system.
Yep.
You want to hold on to bars and coins, and the gold Valcambi bar is a perfect example of that.
It's a great one, and it's a really cool thing to have just in case, for sure. 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653. MidasGoldGroup.com, and we have a whole lot more to cover with you. Ken Russo, Jennifer Horn, it's the Gold Standard Radio Show.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Hear more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on the Gold Standard. You can create your own Gold Standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back to the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn, happy to be with you today. We are talking about gold. We're talking about precious metals, what they can do to protect you and your family. And if you have been thinking about it, don't wait another minute. Call Midas Gold Group right now. 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653. 855-322-4653. That spells out gold, or always at MidasGoldGroup.com. And Ken, we have to talk about the banking system because one of the nicest things about gold is that you bypass all of that.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to that ATM. You don't have to go to the counter. You don't have to rely on the bank staying in business. You have you have
you
a
can
piece
definitely
of your
lighten up, right?
lighten your load,
Yes.
and you can have a piece of your wealth right at home in your safe. So let's talk about the banking system right now, because it's in tough shape.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and we saw what happened to the banking system in March a little bit when people start taking their money out. Oh, the money's not there. What a surprise. Shocking.
Right.
And these banks become insolvent. That hasn't gone away. And interest rates now are higher than where they were in March. So what's happening with all of their investments and their bonds that are underwater? Well, they're under more water.
Yeah.
And literally the 25 largest banks in the last year are seeing the largest fall in deposits in 38 years. And it says with no signs of letting up. And just to put this in perspective, people have taken close to $1 trillion out of the 25 largest banks. They don't trust the system. And can you blame them?
Right. So people are doing kind of what the government does, right? They're taking out more than they're putting in. At
Yeah.
this point.
Well, but this is their money.
Yeah,
So
it's their own money.
yes.
And so they think, why am I putting this in the banks, a banking system that makes me nervous? So what is that? And so what does that tell us about people's mindset? Because a lot of times we like to talk about the mindset of owning gold. What does that tell us about people's behavior when we're watching all
Well,
of
I
this?
think we talked a couple weeks ago about do you want to comply to what's going on or don't you? And that really kind of hit home with me. You know, for those that are kind of tired of being lied to, and we all know that we're not hearing the truth or the whole truth at all about anything, people are not feeling well about handing over their money to the bank, having the bank loan it out, have them invest it. It's not there. Hear the horror stories, you know, about money disappearing, banks going under, and it's all real. This is not, you know, it's not made up. And then you talk about derivatives. I mean, look at J.P. Morgan Chase. They have $60 trillion in derivatives and $3 trillion in assets. I mean, could that be a problem? I mean, it's crazy how leveraged this whole sector is. And then you talk about the unrealized losses, and they're talking about bonds. Yeah, and that's in the tens to hundreds of billions. Bank of America is down $109 billion, according to their last report on their bonds. What about their commercial real estate? I mean, you have some of these buildings that are half full. So this is not being fixed. The only thing that's happening is that the problem is getting bigger and bigger. The bubble is getting bigger and bigger. The leverage is being piled on. And I have to be honest with you, I don't see it ending well.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you want to take control of your situation now, or do you want to be stuck in a new digital system? Do you want to be frozen out of your money? Do you want to have no access to it? Versus, I know at least I have gold. At least I have some silver. I'm not totally dependent on what these yahoos are going to do. And my family's going to be okay. Now, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not a, rocket scientist from MIT.
You're pretty darn smart, though.
That sounds a whole lot better than going down with the ship.
It sure does. And allowing someone else to steer as you're heading down into the water. I mean, that's the point.
Right now, Big Joe and Kamala, they're steering. So, I mean, and yelling and all these other bozos.
Can you imagine? Would you go on that cruise if you found out that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Janet Yellen were the captains of your ship? Why would you put them in charge of your finances? Well, this is why we tell you.
I mean, they are,
Yeah.
And they've all put in their part over the last 25 years to, make the bubble bigger, and they've all played a role. But the question is what could we do about it today? And like I've said before, Jen, if you're lucky enough to have inherited money, or you're a great investor, maybe you made some great moves, maybe you've done well in real estate, you've taken advantage of all this fake money because it has inflated asset prices.
Sure.
Wake up, protect some of it, hedge some of your bets, lock some of it in. You're not going to regret it.
Subvert the banking system. Don't have to rely on having all of your money there in a system that you don't have any control over. That's why you need to call Midas Gold Group right now at 855-322-4653. That's 855-322-4653. 4653.
Which spells gold.
Yeah, 855-322
Coincidentally.
gold. Imagine that. And MidasGoldGroup.com, always there. And we always notice these bank failures, they happen on a Friday. So they can sneak them by us, just like all the big information dumps, right?
Yeah.
So that the government has to give us.
Bankruptcies, too. I mean, the Yellow Trucking Company, they went out bankrupt. That's on a Friday afternoon, too. Heartland Bank a couple of weeks ago, they went out of business Friday afternoon. You know, not to mention Bear Stearns, Lehman, Washington Mutual, Silicon Valley, Signature Bank, even Credit Suisse, they were all on Friday after the market closed, too. I guess they figure, well, at least this way, not many people will see it.
It'll soften the blow if it happens during happy hour on Friday.
They can't all show up on Saturday or Sunday and pull their money out of the bank. So, you know, let's just let it rest. But the fact of the matter is the damage is already done.
The damage is done. And it's being done. I mean, it continues. I mean, how many different ways? Just to kind of go through a little bit and have a little fun.
Yeah, let's have a little fun for a second.
If it's fun, but let's put together a little bit of a list here because there are a lot of things that the government does that they try to explain or try to justify. And they come up with all different reasons that they need to spend more and more money. And they don't have the money to spend, so they just crank up the printer, they print out more money, and then they spend that.
Yeah, and I was thinking
about this. It's a never-ending
about this.
cycle.
Yeah, and if you go back to 2000, we had the dot-com crash. That kind of started it. Then it kind of really sped up a little bit with the war on terror.
Oh, sure. That was a good one,
You know? And then we had the subprime mortgage, crisis, which required tens of trillions of dollars on a bailout. And then some of my favorites, quantitative easing 1, quantitative easing 2, quantitative easing 3, Operation Twist, which was a different one. And
Speaking
then that
of
kind
happy
of held us over for about 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
And then 2019, we come out with the Fed repo overnight market problem. Then 2020, the convenient COVID pandemic.
That was a biggie.
So what's next? Oh, maybe climate change. But there is actually a new name that they just started, the Bank Term Funding Program, also known as the BTFP.
The BTFP.
Yes. Now, this program is the money waiting on the sidelines. So when the banks fail, this is going to make depositors and the banks whole again. So we're preparing for more bank failures, I guess. And wouldn't surprise me. It could happen at any time.
Yep.
You'd have to be a lunatic to not think that it will eventually happen. Although, like I said, we don't have a crystal ball. When you're talking about the biggest possible wealth loss and wealth destruction in our lifetime or in history, who can put a time frame on that?
You can't.
So you have to make those moves now, make those decisions now, be ahead of this so that when and if it all kind of just folds up like a house of cards, you're not going to be financially destroyed. And those decisions happen now.
And this is, I think what you've just hit on with all of these names on this list. Well, we go, they come up with creative ones to try to justify how they can spend money. But what's at the center of each and every one? At the center of each and every one, Ken, in my mind, is fear. They scare the heck out of people. They make people think we have no choice but to do what they want to do. And that's one of the beautiful things about owning gold and precious metals and silver and holding it in your own home is that you don't have to worry about the government not only overreaching and watching you and deciding if you're worthy of spending your own money, but you also avoid the fear pattern. You know that you're taking care of yourself. And that's powerful.
And they're afraid too, Jen.
Sure.
Because they know that, this beast that they've been, feeding off of for the past 50 years is dying and it's on its last leg. So they're going to do whatever it takes to kind of give the impression, oh, we're okay, it's all right, we can save stuff, we can print as much money as possible. You can't fix a credit problem by putting on more credit. You can't do it by just printing trillions of dollars and the whole world's doing it. Like I said, it's just a matter of time. It's inevitable, but you don't have to inevitably fail.
That's right.
And the way you do that is by converting a portion of your money into gold and silver. We could help people do that. It's what we do. It's our expertise. And we would encourage people to take control of their own situation, and those decisions start today.
Yep. If you are in Phoenix, if you are in or near Thousand Oaks in Southern California, you can go in person, meet with the good folks at Midas Gold Group. If not, call right now. Don't wait another minute. 855-322-4653. That's 855-322-GOLD or always at MidasGoldGroup.com. That's MidasGoldGroup.com. Don't wait. Take control. 855-322-GOLD. All right, Ken, another show
week.
in the bag. Thanks so much for joining us. This is the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.